Stop sabotaging yourself by comparing your day one to their day 1000. Here's why. When I first got started into building a business and trying to blaze my own trail and blaze my own path, it was pretty easy for me to compare myself to the progress that other people had, because it seemed like when I was very green in getting started, like everybody was rich, like everybody was way further along than I was, and it was just like a perceived reality that I was really far away. But in reality, a lot of these people that I thought were leaps and bounds ahead of me were just, they started earlier than I, and there was just that. It was a time difference. Maybe they had some sort of resource advantage or some sort of skill advantage that happens, quite frankly, pretty often. But I never thought of that. I just would see someone like an Elon Musk, and I would think like, okay, after me doing this for a week, why am I not a billionaire? And I know that's like a over exaggeration there a little bit, but that's how what you're doing, comparing yourself to other people, is doing. And instead, what you need to do is you need to compare yourself today to who you were yesterday, or to who you were a month ago or a year ago. And I will say, like, one of the biggest misconceptions that I had was just what were the things that created success. And it took a little bit of some pattern recognition and seeing a lot of different data sets of just people becoming successful. But once I started to see, like, hear the stories of just a lot of people becoming successful, I came to the realization that it had nothing to do with me necessarily as a person, besides just these people had competitive advantages. And the number one competitive advantage that people had was not winning the lottery. It wasn't their family giving them tons of money. It wasn't, them getting lucky. If anything, the biggest competitive advantage versus me when I was getting started versus the person I was making millions of dollars a year, whatever, was the fact that they just had more time in things than I did. And if you're looking at me as somebody that, like, wow, Devin's like so far ahead of me, and I wonder if I will ever get to that point, just know that I've just been doing things for like 7 years now. Just imagine just doing 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, some days 2 hours a day, some days 30 minutes a day, for the past 7 years of constantly consuming material to make myself better, of investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into my education and becoming a wiser person, to the years of me connecting with people and building relationships with other people, to the thousands of YouTube videos that I've recorded, to the tens of thousands of YouTube videos that I have created and published with my different YouTube channels, to the I don't know, like $500,000 that I spent on like advertising, to it goes on and on and on, just the compounding effect of the things that I have done. And when I was in month 1, when I was in month 6, when I was in month 12 or month 18 or month 24, I would look at these people that were so much further ahead than I was, people that were making a lot of money and they were living their best life. And then I would look at myself in the mirror, and I would look at my bank account, and I would look at my progress, and I would compare myself and feel like it dwarfed in comparison. It seemed like what they would be able to do in a single day was more than I could do in an entire month. And it felt like it was like, when do I get to make that progress, was kind of the constant thing that I was running through my head, and the constant question. And it felt never ending in those moments. But what you have to realize is it's a time thing. Over time, if you just keep learning and you keep making progress, and if you keep pushing yourself, and if you keep trying to do more and you don't get too comfortable, you will inevitably be in the same position. Now, don't get me wrong, mind you, there's kids that you see that are making that are like 14 years old, that are doing like $500,000 a month online or some crazy stuff. And what I will say is they probably had either a mentor, or they had, maybe their dad was like an entrepreneur and just already had this experience, which that happens. Like, that's out there in this world. That's not all the cases that, like for me, I'm trying to think, like, I grew up, I saw my dad build businesses, but he wasn't some successful businessman that told me to build businesses. Tell me to go to college. Tell me to get a degree and go work a job. What you want to ask yourself is, why did this person become so successful? For the longest time, that's what I try to study. At least from like year 2 to year 5, I started wising up. Whenever I saw success, instead of asking myself, why am I not there yet, and getting discouraged, instead I started asking myself, okay, what is it that what did they do that I didn't do? 9 times out of 10, they'd been doing it for like significantly longer than I have. And then the other aspect of it is, if it seemed to be like in such a faster time span, then they typically had some sort of competitive advantage. Like I said, where it was like their parents had some sort of thing, or they maybe met some like wicked, crazy successful at some time, which typically that stems from just parents. Like somebody like a Mr. Beast, you might see him as somebody like, wow, that's insane. Like, this kid's so young and so successful. But I think he's my age. I think he's like a little bit older than me. So he's like 25, 26. And he started doing YouTube, I think, when he was like 12 years old. So the guy's been in business for like 13, 14 years, which is double the amount of time that I've been in business, which, even though we're the same age, and I could easily compare myself and be like, why am I not, a billionaire yet? If I just break it down in that sense of, oh, I've been doing it for like 7 years and this guy's been doing it for like double the time, 14 years. It's like, oh, that's a no-brainer that this person is significantly further ahead, or like at a different place than I am. Now, does that mean I can't become a billionaire? No. I bet if I keep at the trajectory that I'm going for the next 7 years, I will have opportunities to go that direction if I choose so. And at that time, I'll be 32. And then what'll happen is the 32-year-olds that have been doing business for like 3 years will compare themselves to me and be like, this guy's 32, he's the same age as me, or younger than me, or maybe a couple of years older than me, and he is so much further ahead than I am. What I will say is, at that point, I've just done it for a long time. And it's just doing the thing consistently enough until inevitably you break through. Because what I will say is about my success is, most of the success that I had, most of the like money that I've made, and now at this point, it all happened more in the later stages, like the last two out of like the 7 years that I've been building businesses. The first like 5 years, it was like, I think it took me like 2 or 3 years to where I got to where I finally was making over $100,000 a year. And then to my first $1 million year, it wasn't until 2 years ago. So whatever that is, yeah. So I was like on year 5. Year 5, it was like my first $1 million year. It didn't happen in the first week. Didn't happen in the first month. Didn't happen the first year, the first 2 years, first 3 years. It took me 5 years. That's pretty normal. It takes people a good amount of time before they start seeing that. And if you see people who have it happen faster, they probably had competitive advantages. And if it happens shorter, then they probably, like, if it takes longer, then that means they probably just weren't really applying themselves, and they weren't pushing themselves, and they weren't really continuously all in. And instead they were kind of dipping their toes in and were kind of half in, half out. And that's the difference. Like for me, I think my first year I was kind of like half in, half out. It was probably like the second year that I started to go all in. And so don't compare yourself to your day one to somebody else's day 1,000, or don't compare your day one to someone's day 10,000. Because that's a lot of these people that are like uber successful. They've been doing it for like 30 years, 40 years. You're telling me that if you don't try to become uber successful and uber rich every day, and you're spending 12 hours a day doing it for 30 years, that you won't make at least $10 million, if not $100 million, if not become a billionaire? I would be very blown away if you were pouring your heart and soul day in and day out, every single day, of trying to make progress, and you don't become uber successful. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. I can't even comprehend that. Because, like, if you're constantly learning new skill sets, if you're constantly trying new methods of making money and getting rich, and if you're constantly pushing yourself and trying to get a deeper understanding of yourself, and you're just putting the time and energy into it, and you're failing forward, and you're taking action on a regular basis, and you're giving an immense amount of value to people, and you have good intentions, you're trying to serve people, you're trying to do good for humanity and for society, I would be very surprised if you're not worth hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. after 30 or 40 years. That's the thing. But the issue with most people is they do something for a week, they do something for a month, and then at the end of a week or at the end of the month, they compare themselves. They scroll on social media, they go on Instagram, they see some douchebag with a Lamborghini, and which maybe they rented unless they are actually legit, or maybe it's their day 1,000 or the day 10,000, and they're like, I'm not there yet. I'm a failure. This isn't cut out for me. You just gotta do the math. Like, if you're just getting started, it doesn't make sense. And you gotta, like, one of my favorite quotes by the late Charlie Munger, which is, the world is not a crazy enough place to reward a bunch of undeserving people. And I love that quote because it's so true. It's just, everyone expects to get some crazy results and they're just not there yet. They're not deserving. A lot of it is just, it's not time. Like, to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu, to become somebody that is insanely proficient at jiu-jitsu, if you're going hard and you're day in and day out pouring your heart and soul into this and you're being consistent, it takes like the average person like 10 years, I think, to get a black belt. Same with business. Why are you expecting to have your black belt and to be proficient at business in your first week, in your first 6 months, in your first year, in your first 3 years? You're just getting started. What I will say is, if you keep showing up and you keep applying yourself and you keep learning and you try to learn quick and you get more effective at it, you'll get your black belt in due time. You can get it in 10 years. Some people will probably take 20 years to get their black belt, but you can beat them if you just, if you try to actually apply yourself and try to get better. If you suck, it takes you 20 years, but at least you still got your black belt in business. And here's the thing, is you're probably going to suck at whatever you do. You're probably going to be so bad. Even if you're a talented person, even if you're creative, even if you're smart, even if you grew up in a world of business owners and entrepreneurs, you're probably going to suck at first. What I will say is, how it works is you suck a little bit less every single day. And that's the goal. That was my goal for the longest time. And it still is. I still suck at a lot of things. I just aim to just suck just a little bit less and just try to become a little bit more proficient at what I am doing, a little bit more effective, until inevitably I actually become good or actually become great at something. And that's all it is. That's the secret. That's what you're missing out on. That. I know you're expecting Devin's going to give you some freaking magic wand of a solution to make you rich inside of this video, but that's not out there. And if it was, that'd be boring as hell. Imagine just one night all of a sudden it's just like, boom, you're rich. You might enjoy it for a little bit, but deep down inside, you're not going to feel like you deserved it. And it's not going to be all that exciting. If you got everything that you wanted and that was just given to you, I don't think you would. I think you would try to want nothing at that point. But instead, there's something so special about when you do work hard and when you do put in the work and you do things consistently for a long period of time. And when you do finally get rich and you finally strike it big and you finally have your first big blow up and you have your first $300,000 a month, you'll be like, hell yeah, I deserve that. I worked really hard for that. And it feels really good, because what I will share is that's how it felt for me. Was when I finally hit those big months, I was like, yes, finally, like, I worked my ass off for this and I deserve it. I'm excited to do more. And that's way more worth it than whenever I met somebody that was just handed a bunch of money and they were just like, born into wealth, or they got lucky and won the lottery or whatever. What I will say is that the hard work is all worth it. And when you do get there, then everybody else is going to compare their day 1 to your day 1,000 or your day 10,000. So keep it up, keep putting in the work. Don't expect anything crazy overnight, but keep applying yourself. Keep watching these videos. Keep downloading my thoughts. I want to brainwash you into becoming successful watching these. And my name's Devin Cup. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.